How to make superpowers in Fortnite. In this video, I will show you how to make 7 powers, some of which include double pump, flight, and second life. First of all, place a random number generator and copy these settings, value limit 2, to the number of superpowers you want, winning value to 0. Roll time to instant, pick each number once to. Yes, reset on round start. Zone direction forward, length to the same number as the value limit 2. And finally play audio to off. Next go to your box fight area and link all of your player spawners to your number generator. Do this by going to events and put on player spawned, send event to. Random number generator activate. I will show you how to make 7 powers which fall under 3 categories: class powers, custom powers, and remote powers. First of all, I will show you the class powers. First of all, place a trigger inside the zone of your random number generator, and also a HUD message device, class selector, and class designer. But outside the zone, go to all options on your trigger and change triggered by vehicles off, triggered by water off, trigger VFX and SFX off. Next, go to your HUD message device. Go to all options and put the message what you want. I put mine to flight double jump and then copy these settings. Message recipient. Triggering player. Show for duration permanent. Placement, whatever you want. I want my text above the Heath bar, so I put placement, custom, then screen anchor bottom left. And placement horizontal, 100, and bottom placement vertical, -100. Priority, display immediately, intro and outro animation to none. Then, text color to what you want. And size to your choice. I put mine to 50. And in functions, put show when receiving from, trigger, on triggered. Next go to your class selector and copy these settings. Class to switch to. Use a class you haven't used yet. There are 16 available classes. I put class 1. Next restore health and shields on switch. Off, volume visible in game. Off, visible during game. Off, activation, and zone audio off. Then go to functions and put change player to class when receiving from, trigger, on triggered. Next go to your class designer and change the class name to whatever the superpower is, class identifier to the same as the class selector, and then player flight to on. This is the power I have chosen for this class, but using the class designer you can make a lot of powers such as infinite ammo, infinite mats, infinite heals, instant reload, low gravity, 2x speed, health recharge, and extra health. Don't forget to drop your loadout into the class designer. This is how it looks in-game. Next up, how to make double pump. Copy over the trigger and HUD message device. And make sure they are linked up to each other, not the other trigger and message device. And change the text and color to your liking. For this power you will need 2 more triggers. Rename them to Trigger Double Pump and Trigger Double Pump 2, a player marker, item granter, and item remover. First go to your player marker and our show marker to no. Then go to functions and put attached to player when receiving from the main trigger in the zone. On triggered. Then go to events and put on first tracker item changed. Send event to trigger double pump, trigger, and item remover, remove. Don't forget to add your pump and ammo in the player marker, item granter, and item remover. Next go to your first trigger double pump. And in the settings put trigger VFX and SFX to off, then go to events. And put on triggered send event to trigger double pump to trigger. Then go to the second double pump trigger. And also put trigger VFX and SFX to off, then go to events and put on triggered send event to the item granter, grant item. Then go to your item granter, the all options, and change on grant action, keep all, cycle behavior, wrap, drop items at player location, never. Next go to functions and make sure grant item when receiving from is put to trigger double pump to, and your main trigger on triggered. Finally go to your item remover and put play audio to off. This is how it looks in-game. Next up to times damage, you will need a item granter. and a damage amplifier power-up. First of all, copy over the trigger and HUD message device, and link them up again. Then change the text to your liking. Next, go to Events on the trigger and put on triggered send event 2, damage amplifier, pick up an item granter, grant item. Then drop the loadout you want into the item granter. Next, go to your damage amplifier power-up and copy these settings: infinite effect duration, yes. Respawn, yes. Time to respawn instant. Ambient audio, off. Pickup audio, off. Who can see this power-up? None. And effects, none. Then go to your item granter and copy these settings. On grant action, keep all. Grant all items, drop items at player location, never. This is how it looks in-game. Next up, guards. You will need a guard spawner and a item granter for this power. Again, copy over the trigger and HUD message device, link them up, and customize the text to your liking. First of all, place a guard spawner in the middle of your box fight area and copy these settings. And drop the gun you want the henchman to have in it. Spawn count, 3. Allow infinite spawn. No. Guard team option. Team wildlife and creature. Spawn timer, 1 second. Spawn through walls, off. Spawn radius, 2.5 meters. Enabled at game start, disabled. Starting and max shield to whatever you want. Can be hired, yes. Allow hire conversation, no. Maximum hired guards, 3. Auto hire when spawned, triggering player, and can be given commands, yes. Next, go to events on your trigger and put on triggered send event 2, guard spawner, enable, and guard spawner, spawn. Finally, go to the item spawner, drop your loadout on it, and copy these settings. On grant action, keep all, grant all items, drop items at player location, never. Then go to functions and put grant item when receiving from trigger on triggered. This is how it looks in-game. Next up, Second Life. You will need a down but not out device. 2 triggers, rename them to Trigger Revive and Trigger Revive 2. You will also need a class selector and a class designer. First, copy over the trigger and HUD message device, then link them up. Next, go to the class selector and switch it to a class you haven't used. Keep the settings the same as the other class selector. Then go to functions and put change player to class when receiving from your main trigger on triggered. Then go to your class designer and put it to the same class as your class selector and drop your loadout into it. Next, go to your first revive trigger and copy these settings. Trigger delay, 1 second, trigger VFX and SFX off. Then go to functions and put trigger when receiving from down but not our device on player downed. Then go to events and put on triggered send event 2, down but not out device, revive player, and trigger revive 2, trigger. Next, go to the second trigger revive and copy the same settings from the other revive trigger. Then go to events and put on triggered send event to down but not out device, disable. Finally, go to your down but not out device and copy these settings. DBNO enabled, yes. Use default health after revive, no. Last man standing mode, yes. Selected class. Put this to the same class as your class selector. Invert class selection, only selected. Downed invincibility time to seconds. This is how it looks in-game. Next up is health regeneration. You will need a class selector and class designer. First, copy over a trigger and a HUD message device and link them up and customize the text. Go to functions on the class selector and put change player to class when receiving from your trigger on triggered. Next, go to the class selector and switch to a class you haven't used. Keep all the settings the same. Next, go to your class designer and put the class identifier to the same as the class selector, then copy these settings. Allow health recharge on, health recharge delay, 3 seconds. Health recharge amount, 5. Allow shield recharge on, shield recharge delay, 3 seconds. Shield recharge amount, 2. Don't forget to drop your loadout into it. This is how it looks in-game. Lastly is Break All Builds button. You will need a signal remote manager, item granter, and explosive devices. Copy over a trigger and HUD message device. Link them up and customize the text. Then go to your signal remote manager and put the cooldown to whatever time you want. I recommend a long time for this. Then signal remote tier to anything. Just make sure it matches the actual signal remote that will be used. Then drop your loadout into the item granter, including the signal remote, and copy these settings. On grant action, keep all, grant all items. Drop items at player's location, never. Then go to functions and put grant item when receiving from your trigger on triggered. Then go to your box fight area and place an explosive device. So just a little bit of the top is going through the floor. Next, copy all these settings. Can be damaged, off, blast radius 10 tiles, player damage 0, structure damage 500, knockback none, visible during game no, show health bar no. Then go to functions and put explode when receiving from signal remote manager on primary activation. Then copy this and place it all over the box fight area. This is how it looks in game. Here are some other powers you can make. If this video helped, please consider subscribing.